Real concrete solutions, folks. And wow, I've got a biggie on tonight with me. The guy who invented, well, we'll get into what he invented in a minute, but Jim Gale, a great ecopreneur, someone who creates fantastic things that are going to fix all the problems on the planet, or a huge percentage. Jim, are you with me?
Yes, I am, Brian, and I'm honored and glad to be on your show.
It's great to have you back on. I mean, I had Jim on back in mid 2015. I found out through another friend that he'd taken the journey over to Costa Rica and set up a couple eco villages. Why don't we start with that, Jim? Give people a bit of background on what got you to Costa Rica and why you set up eco villages there.
Well, you got it. Well, I came here, I had sold a couple companies in Minnesota, and I had traveled around the world, and I've always been a nature lover, but I didn't really understand sustainability, and I had never heard the word permaculture. And when I got here, being a nature lover, I intuitively knew that I did not want to touch primary jungle or secondary jungle. But I also didn't know really much about how in depth the whole permaculture scene went. So I started developing, and I asked for criticism from some of the very anti-development groups that were helping to save the jungle. And it was really interesting, the feedback I got. They hated me. And no matter what
I know this man.
Yep. And no matter what I said, they were going to hate me for sure, but I still wanted to learn from them. And, you know, it's funny because now I'm actually kind of friends with the person who hated me the most. And because I really wanted to do good stuff. And as a developer, these folks taught me they took me to new extremes as far as what was right and wrong with regards to destruction of natural habitat and so on. And that's when I got into permaculture. That was about 8, 9, maybe even 10 years ago when I started understanding permaculture. And from there, it has been an infatuation.
Okay. And that's what led you to creating this Permacube revolution.
Yes. My eco-village experience developing Osa Mountain Village, which was written up in the New York Times, and planting thousands of fruit trees and creating large and small scale aquaponics and dehydration and biodigesters and so on. I got out of that about 2.5 years ago, and I kind of did this and that for a couple years. And then I asked a new question. How can I put all of this knowledge, all of these alternative energy and food production permaculture stacking techniques into one system? And that's when the Permacube revolution was born.
Uh-huh. And then you said you had some help in developing it?
Oh, I had a ton of help. I mean, really, to be quite sincere, everything that I have done is copied somebody else. I mean, this stuff like solar turbo dehydrators, that was done many, many decades ago, probably centuries ago, actually. And the biogas and the chicken tractors and the aquaponics, all of these things have been on the market and proven for a long time. What I did different, and my team, of course, were a great help, is I put them together in one hyper-efficient and diversified system.
Okay. Yeah, you sent me the plans, the detailed plans, 30-page document, PDF document. I mean, it's a lot of graphic interface here. It's a beautiful document, man.
Yeah.
I was shocked at the complexity of this. You look at this thing, it looks like a greenhouse with a back. But, man, this thing is unbelievably packed with incredible technologies. And I'm just looking at this here. It talks about water catchment system. Is that part of the basic unit?
That is part of the unit. We've got.
Should give the listener just an overview of this thing.
Okay, so
of the technologies you used in the Permacube. Basically, folks, it's a way of growing your food, and it's a good balance of diet. You can have veggies, you can have your staples, your like your potatoes or whatever, your yams or whatever you want to grow. You've got everything. You've got your chicken, you've got eggs from the chickens, you've got fish if you want fish. I mean, this thing can do anything, and the great thing about it, it's off the grid, and it actually provides food for you for life. That's what I call it, food for life, man. It's incredible.
This system can completely liberate the owner from having to ever buy food and or water again, because this system creates about, I don't know, 30 to 40 different kinds of veggies, more than a dozen kinds of fruit. And when I say creates, that's not quite accurate. This system is the tool that will allow the owner of the system, the operator, to create to grow dozens of kinds of veggies and over a dozen kinds of fruits, fish, chickens, and eggs, harvest water, filter water, even an atmospheric water generator that takes water right out of the air. And this is the part that really ties it together. Between the biodigesters and the solar turbo heaters, you can dehydrate the fruits and veggies and store them for years with proper packaging.
Yeah, I mean, you could start a store from this thing. You could start a business.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I was talking to. I should just explain to the listener that I'm sort of in on this thing now. I'm trying to help market these things and sell them because I'm just so impressed. I've been on there 15, 16 months. This is the first product I've taken under my seriously under my wing and said this is the best thing I've seen ever in the green movement. Short of obviously this permaculture develops and stuff are amazing, but I mean for just the individual person, the family, this unit alone is the one thing that got me involved in all this journey I've been on, amazing journey into the eco movement, was my concern about poverty and suffering in the world. I thought, this is ridiculous. I mean, I figured this out when I was like early 20s. Why the hell are there people starving on this planet? It makes no sense. It's absolutely ridiculous. This unit, I mean, in the right places on Earth, it could solve that problem. I mean, in all the other health-related problems. No water, disease, because you're going to eat real food all the time, fresh food. I mean, this thing is incredible.
Yeah. It really is neat, and it's all proven. And one thing that I like to let the listeners know is our Permacube revolution is about education as well as products. And the education is, for the most part, free. Everything done with the Permacube revolution can be done by the individual on their own. They don't need to buy much to do this. Some of our customers, they would rather, if they're not very handy, maybe with tools, or if they just don't feel like spending all that time, they'd rather buy one from us. But it's really important to know that you don't have to have $10,000. You can do this on your own with a little bit of elbow grease and some online education. The course is free.
And you're providing plants, which are protected, but so we don't want someone going around and creating their own company and producing this. But for someone who wants to make something similar at home, you'll give them the plans for free.
Yes. That's absolutely right. The plans are free. They're open source for anybody other than another company who's going to sell the same unit. We don't want Home Depot coming in and saying, okay, we're making the same thing. That's why we went and got our provisional patent. But for the individual who wants to be completely independent of the system, this is, we love open sourcing and allowing them to do this system.
Yeah, I mean, it really, and so it's sort of like a triple. What do they call that? That triple economy. It's a
win-win-win.
Profit last. Giving back to the community, and sharing the wealth.
Yep.
And it's kind of like that new kind of philosophy, economic philosophy that's starting to catch hold all around the world. Because man, we got some serious issues to deal with here. Very serious issues.
That's my motivation is my 3 girls. I mean, that's my triple motivation right there. I don't think we're going to have a world for my girls to live in. And heck, I mean, it might be too late. A lot of people I used to follow, in fact, I used to spend 8 hours a day studying what's wrong with the world. And Brian, you've helped me with this actually, is that after you already know what's wrong with the world, then any more time spent on learning what you already know is a waste of freaking time. And that's why I'm 95% of the time on the solutions.
Yeah, I mean that's where it's at.
Yeah.
And part of the problem with the people who study all the time, and this is why everything's broken, one of the reasons anyways, is that everybody now in universities, all they do is study, and then everybody has different theories on what's wrong, and they can't agree, and so they just fight about what problem is the most important, and nothing gets done to fix anything.
No.
But so what you've done, you created this thing with what, 3 or 4 other friends, obviously brilliant designers, and this thing. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to go all over the world. It should, if anybody cares enough. Any of these, aid organizations, I haven't gotten around to contacting them, but anybody who's like the Red Cross or anybody who's trying to deal with poverty, the UN, whatever. I mean, this thing, they should be buying these by the thousands.
Yes, and Venezuela, I mean, if they would have just been a tiny bit proactive, everybody, you and I, and just about everybody knew 2-3 years ago what Venezuela was going to look like today, or at least we had a pretty good guess. And if they would have bought these then and passed them out, the amount of money they would have saved and the amount of lives they would have saved, well, heck, it's amazing.
Yeah, I remember we were chatting about the story of the 2 big Soviet-dependent states during right after the Cuban Missile Crisis was Cuba and North Korea.
Yep.
And they part of the deal was for them to stop supporting these states, so they wouldn't have a world war. And so they let them go. They let both of them go. They stopped sending them petroproducts, which they use for heating purposes and in industry. And 2-3 million people died or starved that winter in North Korea, and everybody survived in Cuba. Because they started to take their agriculture seriously with the pressure of not having, a lot of petrol to put in their tractors and whatnot, and they discovered permaculture or something similar to it. And they made a huge difference. And now I think they probably have the best agricultural system in the world in Cuba.
Yep. Isn't that amazing? There's one country that I've seen that has a better one out of 160, 70 countries? That's amazing. And it's out of necessity. And that's what, there is some value, in fact, quite a lot of value in the Alex Joneses of the world that are waking people up. But there also has to be the Brian Porters and the I Am Nature to give people the solutions once they are awake. And same with the Permacube Revolution. And that's what our focus is. And quite frankly, it's a lot more fun for me to focus on that than the other stuff, because the other stuff makes me pissed off and a little bit depressed.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is designed to wake people up. Alex is interesting. I like to listen to him sometimes because he sort of gives me the latest on what's going on, what's up. But you can say it's the same old, same old. I kind of know what's going on,
Yeah.
It's the same patterns. But it doesn't really. That leads me to the next point. He's selling everything about all these different supplements and stuff, which is, I guess, everybody can grow their own food, folks. I don't care where you live. You can grow your own food. So the real solution is to grow your own food. Then you don't need to buy all these expensive supplements that he's selling to everybody. The food, every issue health-wise can be solved with food. What's that saying, Hippocrates? Let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food.
Yep, let thy food be thy medicine and thy medicine be thy food. And Thomas Edison said the doctor of the future will prescribe no medicine, but will interest her patients in the care of the human frame and proper diet. That's not exact, but it's pretty darn close. Well, I mean, smart people from all over the world. Jane Goodall said that we are going to look back on this time and be amazed that we thought it was a good idea to use poisons to grow our food.
It does seem so insane. I just can't believe anybody has any faith in science anymore.
No, well, in bullshit science, I mean, it's not science. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I mean, it really is. It's a much hullabaloo about nothing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just, if it never had happened, if Newton never was born, or Tesla or Einstein, I honestly think we would have been a lot better off.
You're probably right. You're probably right. I mean, Tesla though, he was probably the best one of at least that I'm aware of the three, because he was trying to open source his stuff, where Einstein got caught up in creating a nuclear bomb without thinking of the blowback, of the unintended consequences.
Well,
until afterwards.
Tesla, this is the thing. I always talk about Immanuel Kant because I had the privilege of being taught by one of the top scholars in the world. With Immanuel Kant was his favorite philosopher. And he made a very strong point. He said, you can look at reason from any way to Sunday. He actually wrote a book called Critique of Pure Reason. And he said, deductive reason, inductive reasoning is absolutely irrelevant. It creates no truth. What creates truth is ethical reason.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, and if you don't have your ethics right, all the science is just another tool. All the science in the world is it's actually a bad thing to have knowledge if you're not going to use it in the right way.
Wow. Ethos. That's beautiful. Well, we talk at our community, our company about pathos, logos, and ethos, and ethics is something that we talk about. In fact, we probably talked about it for half an hour today with the folks that you spoke with today as well. They are the most enlightened lawyers that I've ever met, and it's neat to be associated with folks that get that at a core level.
Now, how did you meet those? I forget, they said that it was through a friend of a friend again that they met you?
Yep, downtown San Ysidro, a friend of ours who is really crazy excited about the products, said, Jim, anyway, she got excited and hooked us up.
Okay. Because then now they know my friend Bruce McDonald who's there. So he's all excited now to meet them, and they're going to help him too. And we all want to set up these eco-villages with a sovereign, strong legal framework, and they're in this incredible group of lawyers that are getting consultations from one of the top, the only radical Rothschild I've ever heard of. I'm having them on next week, by the way, folks. Fascinating people. It's really going to be a great show. But they're the legal advisors to Jim on this project. Yeah. So we're in good hands when you got those sort of people on board with this project. I mean, this is just coming together. It's like I can't believe the kind of team we've got moving on this. It's blowing my mind, man.
Yeah. Every day it grows in such a way that you could tell that what is that? It was Ron Paul, but I don't know who it originally came from. But there's no standing army strong enough to fight an idea whose time has come. I know I didn't say that quite right, but
it's pretty close.
Yeah, the time is here, and it has to be here. And the waking up the people that are still totally asleep is a little bit of a challenge for me, and I'm not going to really push it. I'm just going to do my best to get this product out to people who are at least partly awake and really realize that they have to get off of these toxic, low nutrition foods. And then again, the system might collapse. They might not have any food unless they create it themselves.
Yeah. Well, like I say, what you're saying is so true. It's better to be prepared and caught with your pants down in the event that there is some sort of a crisis. It seems to me that the one good thing about knowing about the problems is who's what they're up to, and I will be very surprised if something really dramatic doesn't happen in the next few years. That's going to push everyone. Like, it's kind of going country by country right now. We've got Europe's in a real mess right now, huge mess. Greece really went under, year and a half ago. So, I mean, it's happening. It's going country by country. And I don't think, Jim, that we're immune from this crash. Food's going to be very short supply. Someone who has their own food. This unit, I just can't believe it. I was talking to someone else in our group. I said, this is the stay-at-home parent solution. Why do
Yes.
you need two people working when you got
Yep.
somebody providing the freshest, best food you can imagine
Yep.
that can stay at home, one of the parents, or you can have two people working part-time, whatever you want, any way you want to set it up. But this, once you have all your food bought and paid for, you can't support your pay your utility bills and your mortgage with one job. Most people can. Why do you need two people working? You got kids at home. You want to raise them yourself, don't you? Do you want to use the government-approved daycare and all this crap? I don't think so. I don't
Right.
recommend that. You can even homeschool your kids. This system is going to liberate a lot of lives.
It sure is. And the return on investment, when you consider the cost of organic food, organic eggs, organic lettuce and kale and veggies and fruits and fish and all that stuff, this system can pay itself off in like 9 to 12 months. And part of the thing about aquaponics is it takes 3-4 months to really get rocking, but then it produces much more than the other systems, than standard ag or even hydroponics. And so it's a great investment. It's just a win-win-win all the way around. And it takes less than an hour a day, maybe 40 minutes a day can operate this system to full capacity.
Wow. That's short time. I thought maybe an hour or two a day, but wow, that's incredible. So why does it take so long for the aquaponics to get up there to speed?
Oh, that's a great question, because aquaponics is a combination of hydroponics, which is using liquid to grow veggies and fruits that has to have supplements and nutrients added. And then aquaculture is the raising of fish or shrimp, in water. And the combination of these systems is aquaponics. And what that does is the fish waste, and some people use freshwater shrimp, that goes in to feed the system, which is the veggies and the fruit. And those nutrients are rich. So the veggies and the fruits grow like crazy with the fish manure. We also inject some worms in there, and they help with the process quite a bit, and they add more nutrients. And then the plants, in turn, clean the water that goes back to the fish.
Mm-hmm.
It's a symbiosis.
Wow. And then if in a dry climate, this is ideal, right? You're in Costa Rica. I guess they have a lot of rain down there, but a lot of people look at California. I mean, it's in what, 3-4 year drought now, 5-year drought. So this system, and it seems to me like maybe we may have somebody making them living in California now, another person that we've met, right?
Tim is amazing. Tim Butts. I can't wait to see what he produces, because I know how talented he is. And wow, I just thank you so much for introducing me to Tim, because I think he's going to be basically in charge of our U.S. manufacturing. And anyway, I'm excited about that. And by the way, aquaponics conserves between 90 and 95% of the water compared to traditional agriculture.
Yeah. No, exactly. I wanted to bring that up because water is becoming, I know where I live, I mean, it's an absolute ripoff what they charge you for water here. It's unbelievable.
It's nuts.
And I'm sure it's more expensive in California when there's shortages all the time. So that's one of the ways to get people to conserve is by just raising the cost of getting it from the city. Yeah. So this is going to make sure that you get your biggest bang for your buck for your water, and so it's really ideal in drought-stricken areas. I'd say this is probably the best place for it. Would be a drought-stricken area like California. You don't have issues with heat, like up here in Canada, up like north of 50. This unit might need a little bit of help, right? A little bit extra heat.
Yes.
Maybe lighting for the winter because you can have very low sun conditions that far north.
Yes, and that's what Tim is an expert in. There are ways, and there are other people who've already done it, and there are ways to pack in the heat using rocks or liquid. Liquid is a great heat sink, and so there are ways to run pipes and do things that will keep the inside of your unit warm enough where the plants won't freeze in the coldest times. And I've seen people in Minnesota and Wisconsin where it gets down to 20 below Fahrenheit, and they're still running their systems. And yes, it's way more work, and it's going to be, you're going to have a lot of extra stuff to keep it going, like solar blankets and things like that, or just an insulated shell. But it is doable, and there are people doing it already.
Yeah, yeah. I connected with him today. Hopefully he'll Skype me. But a guy named Robin Goss was one of my guests. I guess he was on a few weeks before you, and he was working on I believe a designed greenhouse that needed no extraneous heat that would grow food year round in Newfoundland.
Awesome.
I mean, Newfoundland. I mean, man, that's like an 8-month winter.
I'd like to meet him.
You would, eh?
Yes.
Oh, I think you'd like him. Yeah, he learned from a guy who was, believe it or not, military, but he was specially trained in how to create the kind of unit you got, but sort of like out of materials locally. And this guy, I know Bruce McDonald talked to him a lot too, but he had everything, how to do everything basic, how to create electricity using a mule, walking in a circle. This is the kind of stuff. It was basic kind of technologies that you could put together anywhere on the planet. And he was an expert, even underground greenhouse growing. This guy was a great resource. Robin learned a lot from him. Plus, he's been to university. His parents were all PhDs. Yeah, the guy doesn't even sound like he's from Newfoundland, because he hardly spent any time outside of his house. He stayed home and learned nonstop from his parents. He's the smartest, probably one of the smartest people I've ever met. In terms of his knowledge, he's only like in his early 30s. You talk to him, he sounds like he's 60. He's so brilliant.
That's great.
He knows every system, a greenhouse system out there. He's like a Tim Butts. Maybe even he may even have more theoretical knowledge than Tim Butts. It's hard to believe, but those two they'd certainly have a lot of fun chatting. But for some reason, what happened is that his project didn't come through for him, and he sort of gave up. And you hit the wall, and then you have to sort of take the time off and just find the energy to go again, because it looked like he had it going, and then the floor fell out on him, and he got discouraged. But you can't give up, right?
Every successful person that I know says that they were on the verge of failure when they had a breakthrough. And, who knows when that breakthrough is going to come, but giving up isn't even in the cards. I mean, that's not even an option. So I don't even know what that means.
Oh, that's what I love about you, Jim. Always positive, always moving forward. That's the key. I mean, every problem has a solution. Yeah. And so, all you have to do, if you can't figure something out by yourself, start asking questions. And you'll be amazed. A lot of answers will come to you for free.
Absolutely. And there are no such thing as failures. There's only results. Thomas Edison had like 9,000 results, none of them which were an electronic light bulb. But then all of a sudden, those results, every one he learned a little bit. Pretty soon, he's got the light bulb. It's just how you look at it, right? And how you frame it. And I love asking new questions. That's what my life's all about is, okay, that's not working. Who's doing it better than me in this exact space? And I'm going to copy them and then add my own thing to it, And it's not plagiarizing unless you're, of course, copying out of a book. But this is saying, what can I do better and who's already doing it better? I want to learn from that person.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I definitely will try to hook you up with Robin. Like I say, he's not out there as much as he was. But I saw him on Facebook today. I left him a message to give me a Skype, so hopefully he'll. Because I was thinking of what we're doing, and I thought, man, if he's smart, he'll get in on this because it's a ground floor opportunity for him. And this is just the beginning. This is just one product. There's a few other people involved that have other products to sell.
Yeah, I mean, what we're doing, our goal is to get people liberated from the system so they don't have to be, there's so many reasons in which we've already discussed, but we are selling all of the pieces of the puzzle plus consulting. We're also open sourcing our plans so people can do them on their own. And And we're going to keep adding whatever makes sense, like the atmospheric water generator and these amazing water filters that are out there. And we're just going to keep going.
Yeah, second hour, James McCanney's going to come on, talk a bit about his water filters, top tier scientist. I mean, wow, we get James McCanney in on this. I mean, he's got a wing wheel electrical generating system that it puts these little, three, what do you call them? Three propeller systems to shame. I mean, it'll produce about 20 times as much power as one of those things.
Really?
Value. It's much more efficient system. Yeah, those wind generation systems are made by GE and Mitsubishi. Those are the two main producers. They're designed to fail. They're designed to rip off the taxpayer.
Yeah, planned obsolescence.
Well, I mean, they don't produce any power. I think it's got to be a certain wind speed. I think it's like 15 to 35 miles per hour. Anything below or above that, they have to power them to get them to move, and then they're so expensive to make that they actually have to pay for 20 years $500,000 a year to on this long-term sort of debt payment system. I mean, they're just so inefficient, and they're put on the grid. So James's system could be put in any situation, small, big, whatever. But as we know, the key to everything is decentralized, right?
Yeah, everything needs to be decentralized. That is, and so in other words, we're fighting. It's just not fighting. I don't even want to use that word. We are the antithesis of what's going on in the world right now, politically and with these big groups. And we need to just take this grassroots from the ground up, one person at a time, and get detached from this system. And food and water and energy are the biggest three. Yeah.
I'm really happy that you got this set up so it actually powers itself. Because say that you're on the grid and things happen, right? Things go wrong. I mean, every few days people are losing power in the U.S. now. That grid is way overworked. That's just one of the many things that could go down and go wrong in there. So this thing has its own. I see you've got a wind power. Looking at this picture, you've got the option of wind and solar, or both.
Well, people can do what's best for them, what suits them in their area. In fact, we're huge into water. If somebody's next to a river, or can get a little Pelton wheel, or can get some water power going, that is the best, because you don't need batteries, and it's the best system out there, I think.
Yeah, hydro is amazing.
What
they've done in Quebec with their hydro is just off the scale amazing, because I think most of the area they flooded was just bog, which produces almost no life whatsoever. A bog is basically a dead area with nothing can grow in a bog. So they flooded a bunch of bogs, and they created enough power to for like 30 million people. And it's on a big grid and whatnot. So, but it's so far up north, nobody even know it's there. I mean, it's an incredible system. But what you're doing, what we want to do, is we don't have access to these huge rivers and whatnot. What most people have, maybe a little spring, or a little people out there in Costa Rica. There's waterfalls everywhere. We were just talking to your lawyer friends there, and they said that they're looking at some property with a waterfall. That would be perfect.
It would be perfect if the government did not interfere. In Costa Rica and in many places, the government doesn't want you to harvest water or to create your own energy. In fact, they've got a monopoly here in Costa Rica called ICE, and they do not want people. They make it very difficult for people to have solar panels. In my eco-village, my house was the only house out of 61 houses that had solar panels, and getting them permitted, I mean, it should be easy. You should be just not even, there shouldn't even be permits. You just do it. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it was a nightmare.
So they want to have monopoly control over the power.
They want control, and we want to take control from them. And so it's interesting how it's going.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a standoff. This is where this sovereign community idea. I love the sovereign movement, and I thought, God, I mean, I know so many really brave, strong, determined people who found a way out of the system. But I felt bad for them because most of them, because they weren't a part of the system, they couldn't get any of the benefits. So they ended up like going friend's house to friend house. They couldn't own anything. They couldn't enjoy any of the benefits of being in the system, right? Right. It's a very unbalanced benefit system, but there are a few benefits. So they were free, but they couldn't access anything. But with this sovereign community concept, we can have a community with these sorts of beautiful growth systems in them, for starters, and then we can expand from that. But you can have a community where people actually can do things the way they want to, build their houses the way they want to, earthships, whatever they want, Yeah. And can you build an earthship in Costa Rica? They have issues with that kind of stuff?
No. In fact, we tried to do a block where you take that, what is that called? The blocks where you compressed earth.
Okay, yeah.
And you get these machines and you make your own blocks out of clay and you put a little bit of cement in there, but it's like 90% more efficient and less cost and more carbon neutral and all that stuff. And not that I even understand where the science is really on that, because there's so much BS behind it. But the bottom line is it was a great product. And no, they would not allow you to do it because it hadn't been through their College of Engineers. And again, it's the government getting in the way of progress so much.
Yeah. Well, this is why we got to get Kasia Joubert involved. She's head of the Global Eco-Village movement. They've got 10,000, I think maybe 12,000 eco-villages in their network. A lot of places, eco-villages are welcomed. Some governments actually care about their people. It's hard to believe, but they actually don't want them starving, which is a beautiful thing to hear. And
yes.
And a lot of, like, even in India, there's I think there's like 4,000 alone in India. And with these growth systems that you've got, and I'm telling you, this system is, like you say, it pays for itself in no time. And just think of the medical bills you save when you're in a poor country, and you got people, they're starving, and then all the other things fall apart. Their immune system falls apart, and then the medical costs go up. Often they have better medicine than they have food. And but all those costs would go way down. The key to everything is just eating right and eating fresh, real food. Our bodies are designed. We're 90% microbial. We need plants. We have to feed all the other life forms too. It's kind of crazy the way Mother Nature made us, but she made us this way because she wanted us to fit in to nature.
You're right. Right? You're 100% right, Brian. And gosh, it feels so good to see that people are taking this. I just got this message popped up that this group wants to take this system international just as we're talking. It is the Green Planet Architects. And I've never heard of them, but they're saying that we've got a worldwide visibility and we're interested in marketing your product, the Permacube Revolution, worldwide. And that, I get those kind of messages now 2-3 times a day, which means the time has come for this kind of system.
Wow, that's great news. That's awesome.
Yeah,
it just happened. I wonder if they're listening to the show. I'm curious.
And they might be actually, because it just came up like 5 minutes ago. It just popped in, so it may be. I'll definitely ask.
We'll find out. Anyways, this is anything I do on radio is podcasted, folks. So anything you want to re-listen to or whatever. But we haven't even gotten out any contact information yet, Jim. So we should do that. What's the best way to find out about the Permacube Revolution?
Well, the best way, there are several ways, but I would suggest, since you are a big part of the team, and it's really important that people, if you do hear about this through I Am Nature and Brian Porter, that you mention that to us. We really want to make sure we give credit. We are a for-profit company, and we want to make sure that people get credit, and which means commissions and affiliates are a big part of spreading the word. And like I said, we also give the plans away at no cost for those people who want to create their own systems and stuff. So I would say get a hold of you. PermacubeRevolution.com is the website, and let us know that Brian Porter is how you found out about us.
Okay, that's a great idea. I never thought of that. Yeah, or you can Skype me at bporter5611. That's my Skype address. I like to Skype with people. It's my preferred method of communication. I find it works better than the phone does. So yeah, bporter PORTER 5611. I can certainly go through all this. Any sort of questions, anything I don't understand, I can ask Jim. But I'm pretty familiar with all the technology here. This we've been talking about this now for a while, and I knew about it before I even started my show. So none of this stuff is new to me. But it's the thing is, Jim, is that we've gotten away from luxurious simplicity, right?
Yes.
It's the simple things that matter, not the complex things. And these cabal leaders we have on this planet have tried to make everything so complex that it's hard to figure out, and it's hard to follow through the maze to see where all this money's going and where all the science is going, and it's all blocked, it's compartmentalized. This is simple. This is easy to understand, and it produces abundance. These are the solutions that we need, man.
Yep, and they are exactly right. I mean, right now, an apple gets sprayed 17 times with poison from the time it is originated to the time it hits your mouth. And this system is self-regulating. You cannot use toxins in the system, because if you use toxic fertilizers in the aquaponics, then the fish will die. And so it's a really neat self-regulating, water-conserving, food-storing system. I mean, these solar turbo dehydrators are just amazing. I took a used shipping container and turned it into a large-scale, off-grid dehydrator, and we created a company called Costa Rica Naturales, and we dehydrate mangoes and bananas and papayas and pineapples, and even a lot of the herbs like turmeric and ginger and other herbs. And this stuff is the best medicine you could ever have. In fact, if you look up turmeric and cancer, or guanabana leaves, and the active agent is graviola, these things fight cancer. Well, just look it up yourself. I don't want to make any claims, but you look it up and you'll be blown away at how much more effective these are than some traditional techniques.
Yeah, and if let's say you have a naturopath and he recommends certain herbs for your, any health condition you have, and if you had this unit, you could say, well, would it be better to have the fresh herb? Can I just grow these myself? And I'm sure he'd say, oh yeah, that's your best source. I mean, fresh is always best. Yep. The enzymes are there. All the complex ingredients. I mean, we have a very complex system in our bodies. It needs a lot of different ingredients to work right. And It's all in the fresh, folks. It's some things you might want to cook a bit. Like, say, people say, oh, broccoli, you should cook it for 2 minutes. Well, that's up to your personal preference. But, I mean, the thing is that I read a book when I was traveling. I was like 21 years old. I went up to California. And I ran into this one of these craft kind of fairs, and there was somebody selling this book, and it was called "Be Your Own Doctor," and it was all about microgrowth systems.
Yeah.
And it was written by a woman, Ann Wigmore. And yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, and I don't know about how well you've been eating. I think you're a pretty smart guy. You've probably been eating pretty well all your life. I've been, I sort of turned my diet around the age of 20 after I did this trip out to California, and I've had one serious illness in the last 40 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
And that was after my dad died. So the reason I got sick is because I was sad. It was sadness. It was loss, and that's very common. So, I'm pretty energetic, still going strong at 60. I know guys who, like Michael Baker, I was talking about him. He says he was 80 and he did a strength test, and he started his own eco village, and he from scratch, and he ate organic. He says, I ate organic from the day I was born. My parents believed in that. So all his life organic. 82, he says, I tested at age 50, strength-wise.
Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I know my dad, he started eating well and growing his own stuff organically. He's 75 and he just became a paraglider. He is now flying every day in a parachute without a motor, just wind currents on the mountain ridges here in Costa Rica. It's just amazing.
Oh, your dad's down there too?
Yep, and he's loving it.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that because I remember you said you used to go up to see the family. You used to get sick all the time.
I know. I'd go up there for
the winter time.
Yep.
Yeah. So the whole family's down there now in Costa Rica?
Well, my mom's in Minnesota. We're going to see her in a couple weeks. And, my dad's here.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
He's paragliding.
I know. Isn't that nuts? He started at 74. He's 75 now, and he's been doing it almost 4 or 5 days a week for the last 3-4 months.
He likes being a bird.
Yep. And he's never farmed or gardened in his life, and now he's gardening, which just cracks me up. That's great, though.
Wow. Is that big down there in Costa Rica? Paragliding?
It kind of is. There's some amazing mountains that go right to the ocean, and they're about 3,000-4,000 feet, so they're not real tall, but they're tall enough to take that ocean breeze, and you can catch it with these chutes, these kites. And you can fly around for hours on the updraft.
Ah, yeah. Wow. Oh, I'd love to try that sometime.
Yeah.
Something I've never done.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. So yeah, the thing about this system that is really, I think, is the biggest money saver is the dehydrator, because then you're never going to lose. You'll never, ever have food spoilage, because if you don't need or you don't want to eat all the food that's producing, you just dehydrate it and then eat it later.
That's right. Roger Landry was just telling us the stats on waste. I think it's 40% of the food is wasted in the United States. Well, with this system, literally, you can have a banana that is just about to be bad. It's got brown spots. You chop that up, put it in a dehydrator, and those spots become completely irrelevant. In fact, even if they're a little bit brown, when you dehydrate that banana and brown, it's even more sweet. It's absolutely wonderful. So, just imagine all the broccoli and all the tomatoes and all the different fruits and veggies that get thrown out of big grocery store chains and of your personal kitchen. Well, that will never happen with a dehydrator.
Well, yeah, but you don't want to eat food that comes from a grocery store anyways, because
no, exactly.
Say with the apple 17 times, and even if it's, quote, organic, they still spray it. You can still spray it so it won't rot. I mean, it's absolutely abominable. The standards for organic are a joke. I mean, you don't even want to read them. You get sick reading the standards. What's allowed in the production of organic food for sale in grocery stores?
Yeah.
It just defeats the whole purpose of growing anything organic, because they, like I say, the preservatives are in it. The only solution, folks, really, if you want to eat real organic, you got to grow it yourself.
Yeah. Then you know.
Yeah.
Then you know where it comes from and what's in it. And again, it only takes 45 minutes a day to operate this system at full capacity. And I mean, what kind of return on that is that when you're getting $1,200 to $1,500 a month in produce, that's one heck of a hourly wage.
Yeah, and you could probably sell this stuff because it's such high quality. You could sell it to high-end restaurants. I know there's a family in California. They tried to patent their growing system, which is a bit much. I know they pissed a lot of people off, but they basically created a huge garden around their house, and then they tried to patent the design. But they sold most of their veggies, organic veggies, to high-end restaurants.
Yep.
And they'd come by and they'd pick it up right from the house.
Yep. I know the ones you're talking about. They produce enough for 5 or 6 people to live on like an eighth or a tenth of an acre. And they've got goats and ducks and chickens and just loaded with stuff. And they produce enough to sell and make money. I mean, that is complete independence.
Yeah, and they support themselves, through the sale of these goods. What I'm saying, so this system, I think you could probably feed more than 5 or 6 people if you really went to it. And you could, if you had an extra one, you could use that one to sell.
Yeah.
And create a little business on the side for yourselves. Yeah.
Absolutely. I
There's-
mean, when I say 5 to 6 people, I'm talking about enough for just that system to enough calories, healthy calories that 5 to 6 people could survive on water and food just from that system. If they had nothing else.
Now, do you provide all the materials like for all the different technologies? Like I think we're talking about heirloom seeds for the for the grow beds and whatnot. But what about the soil and all that stuff? Is that going to be local? That's kind of hard to move that around.
Yeah, we don't want to waste the resources to be shipping soil. And there are, it depends on where you're at, what kind of land you have. You might want to have some blocks to put this on blocks. It doesn't need a foundation. It doesn't need a pad, but you might want to do a pad. It's just completely up to you as depending on what you've got. If you got a swampy, muddy backyard where it can get wet, you might want to put just a bunch of concrete blocks down or some rocks.
But the only thing you have to add is you're going to have to buy a bit of soil, right?
Yeah, so the rocks do come with it. The special rocks that are like volcanic rocks for the aquaponics system. However, the grow beds and some of the materials comes with that, but not